So my name is Tiffany Clements. I am the Care Program Development, Education, and Outreach Specialist at Home-Aid Caregivers. And I am their own staff, CARES Dementia Specialist, one of only 34 in Texas. Dementia care is my heart and soul. I have experience in memory care leadership and being a caregiver as well. And my educational background is in psychology with an emphasis in neuropsychology. So in my role with Home-Aid Caregivers, I develop dementia education programs for our caregivers, and also I train other caregivers at facilities. Okay? I give educational talks throughout East Texas, and I also provide one-on-one consultations for families and help develop specialized care plans and facilitate support groups and throughout East Texas. Okay? So I also have very close family members going through these diseases as well. But I'm very, very passionate about this topic, and I'm here to help other families go through this as well. So one of the reasons I love to do what I do is because every family has a story. Behind every diagnosis is a husband, a wife, a parent, a grandparent, a lifelong friend, someone who deserves to be understood with dignity, compassion, and respect. So before we begin, I'd like to share something that's very important to me. Today's presentation is not about creating worry. It isn't about making anyone feel afraid of growing older. It's about replacing uncertainty with understanding. Knowledge doesn't create fear. Knowledge builds confidence. And when we understand what's happening inside the brain, we are better equipped to recognize normal changes and recognize changes that deserve medical attention. And most importantly, respond with compassion when someone we love begins experiencing these changes. Hi, Paula. It's good to see you. I'm doing well. It's good to see you, ma'am. All right, so one of the biggest misconceptions about dementia is that it's simply a disease of memory. Memory is certainly affected, but memory is only one part of what our brains do. Every second of every day, our brains are interpreting what we see, helping us communicate, organizing our thoughts, planning our next steps, managing our emotions, making decisions, solving problems, and helping us understand the world around us. Dementia can affect every one of those abilities. And today, I'd like to help you understand not only what dementia is, but how it changes the brain. Whether you're here because you're curious or because you're supporting a spouse, helping a family member, or wondering about changes in yourself, or simply because you enjoy learning, or for the ice cream, I'm glad you are here. My hope is that you leave today feeling more informed, more confident, and knowing that if questions ever arise, you don't have to navigate them alone. So let's start with something we all have in common. We've all forgotten something, right? Have you ever walked into a room and stopped and thought, now why did I come in here? Or misplaced your glasses, only to discover they were sitting on top of your head. Maybe you've driven to the grocery store, walked outside with your groceries, and can't remember exactly where you parked. Or maybe you've introduced yourself to someone, forgotten their name, and then remembered it 5 minutes later. If you've done any of those things, congratulations, you are human. Those experiences happen to every single one of us. Our brains may have different memory systems working together all day long. There's memory for facts, memory for skills, memory for conversations, memory for faces, And one of my favorites to teach about is something called prospective memory. Prospective memory. It is simply remembering to do something in the future. For example, I need to call my daughter after lunch. I need to stop by the pharmacy. I have a doctor's appointment on Thursday. Then the day gets busy, the phone rings, someone stops by for a visit, you start another project, and suddenly you're brushing your teeth at night and you think, I completely forgot to call. That's called a prospective memory failure, and it's extremely common, and it is expected. It happens to everyone. Young adults, parents, professionals, college students, retirees, all of us. In fact, prospective memory is especially affected when we're distracted. Managing several things at once, not sleeping well, feeling overwhelmed or under stress. I see this all the time with my family caregivers. Imagine trying to remember your own appointments while also remembering someone else's medications, doctor visits, meals, bills, and safety, and everything else that comes with caring for someone you love. That's an incredible mental workload. So when family caregivers tell me, I feel like my memory is getting terrible, I remind them, sometimes it isn't your memory that is the problem. Sometimes it's the amount your brain is trying to manage all at once. So that's one reason I encourage, regardless of age, to use memory aids. Write things down. Keep a calendar. Keep a planner. Set reminders on your phone. Leave yourself notes. Let yourself off the hook for those things. Those aren't signs of weaknesses. They're signs of good planning. I use reminders myself. There's no way I could keep everything I do straight without them. So one of my favorite sayings is that the shortest pencil is better than the longest memory. Writing something down isn't cheating your brain, it's partnering with it. So all of us forget things from time to time. So how do we know the difference between normal forgetfulness and something more concerning? That's where understanding dementia becomes important. Because dementia isn't simply about forgetting. It's about changes that begin affecting how the brain functions in everyday life. Let's talk about what those differences look like. So we've established something important. Everyone forgets. The question isn't whether we occasionally forget. The question is, when does forgetting become something more? One of the biggest differences between normal aging and dementia is that normal aging is forgetting may be inconvenient, sure, but forgetting in dementia begins to interfere with daily life, okay? So someone living with dementia may forget an entire conversation, not just part of it. They may ask, what time are we leaving? You answer, and then a minute or two later, they repeat the question. It's not because they weren't listening. It's not because they were trying to be difficult. But because the brain is no longer storing that new information like it once did. From their perspective, they're asking for the very first time. The same thing can happen with stories. Instead of saying, did I already tell you that? They may tell the exact story several times, many times during one visit, completely unaware that they've already shared it. They're not trying to annoy anyone. The brain simply isn't keeping track of that recent conversation. You may also notice someone becoming confused or disoriented in places they've known for years. They may have difficulty finding their way home from a route they've driven hundreds of times. They may have trouble managing medications, paying bills, following a favorite recipe, or completing familiar household tasks may gradually become more difficult. These are the kinds of changes that begin affecting everyday independence. One thing I always remind families is that dementia is much more than memory loss. Memory is certainly affected, but memory is not the only job the brain performs. Our brains are constantly helping us understand and perceive what we see. We use it to plan our day, to make decisions, to find words, to interpret conversations, and control our emotions, to solve problems, and make sense of the world around us. Dementia can affect every one of those abilities. And that's the part that often surprises people. So when someone says, she doesn't seem like she has dementia because she remembers my name, or he remembered what happened 30 years ago, I gently remind them that dementia isn't measured by one memory test. It's measured by how changes in the brain begin affecting everyday life. So I like to explain it this way. If you break your leg, you don't judge the injury by whether you can still wiggle your toes. You look at how the injury affects your ability to walk. Dementia is similar. We don't judge it by one forgotten name or one misplaced set of keys. We look at how those changes affect daily life over time. So, when most people hear the word dementia, they think of the memory being affected. But it also affects perception. Perception is how the brain makes sense of information coming through our senses. Here's something that surprises many people. We don't actually see with our eyes. Our eyes collect information, and our brains decide what to do with that information. That's why two people can look at the exact same thing and experience it differently. So a dark rug can look like a deep hole in the floor to someone living with dementia. Shadows may look like people standing in the room. A shiny tile floor may appear wet or slippery for those living with Alzheimer's or dementia. Instead of assuming someone is being stubborn, let's become curious instead. And curiosity leads to compassion. Another part of the brain that's affected by dementia is executive functioning. That's a big term, but it is a very simple idea. Think of executive functioning as your brain's chief operating officer. It's responsible for planning and organizing and making decisions and judgment and solving problems. So, for example, imagine making a pot of coffee. Most of us don't even think about it, but there are steps to it. Find the coffee, put in the filter, measure the grounds, add the water, wait, pour the coffee. But someone living with dementia may recognize every single object, but organizing those steps in correct order becomes more difficult. So they may do things out of sequence. But I would like to discuss something with you real quick that I hear a lot of families go through, and they don't understand why. And that is something called showtiming. So showtiming is when your loved one who's living with Alzheimer's or dementia can pull it together for very short amounts of time. Usually, when you're taking them to the doctor, and maybe they're needing that diagnosis so bad, but they're passing all the little tests, and the doctor has just spent 15 minutes with them, and they seem fine to them. But then on the way home, they're trying to put the gear shift into park as you're going down the road. or they're trying to get out of the car door while you're going down the road. And when you finally get them home, they are sundowning worse than they have all week. And that is because of showtiming. They can pull it together when the family comes visits. They can pull it together for just a little while during the doctor's appointments. But then when you get them home, you're having to deal with the reality of it. And a lot of times families are left unable to get that desperate diagnosis they need to open up more resources to help them. As we begin wrapping this up, I want to leave you with something encouraging. One of the number one things you can do to slow the progression or to prevent, as long as you can, the onset is physical activity. Studies have shown that. Physical activity is the number one thing you can do. This is so important, so important. Number two, most important, is not to social isolate yourselves. It is so important to keep your social life alive, like coming to things like this, coming to bingo, going to all of the fun, amazing things that Paula does. She's incredible. This is so important. Have those phone calls, make those friends, make those connections. Never social isolate. So, what I would like to tell you now is some of you there on the tables have a sheet of paper, okay, a couple sheets of paper ideally, and it lets us know a little bit more about what mine and Mallory's company does. Now, we are with Home-Aid Caregivers. We have offices in Tyler and Longview, okay? And we basically fill in the gaps wherever you're needing care and wherever you're calling home. Whether it's in a lovely community like this, or skilled nursing, or in a private home, we help you with whatever you need if you need a little more help and assistance. That can be anything from transportation and companionship all the way to incontinent care and one-to-one caregiving, okay? But on top of that, I personally offer several dementia-related specialized programs. And that is one-on-one care planning, one-on-one guidance and consultations, all of which are free services to the community. I have several support groups that I run, and you may notice that I have a piece of paper here, Ask a Dementia Care Specialist. That is a twice monthly Q&A that I host that you can join in and ask any questions that you have about dementia or dementia care. Okay? This is also a free service to the community. We also help with memory care transitions. If you are having to transition from IL or AL or from your home into memory care, we help you with those transitions as well. Okay? We offer a lot of community resources and education, and you can take my business card. It has my personal cell phone on it. If you have questions or concerns or need to talk to me about anything related to dementia care, all you have to do is call me or text me, and I will be right there to help you. Okay? This is a free service that we offer our communities in both Longview and Tyler and all of East Texas. I do want to thank you all so much for hearing us out today, listening to us. And I do want to open up the floor for any questions that you may have here. And if you do not feel comfortable with talking to me in a room like this, I will be around for a little bit longer if you want to talk to me one-on-one. And by all means, you'll have my phone number if you ever need to ask me anything. So thank you so much. I want to make sure I do not interfere with bingo. I know how important that is. But I really thank you all so much for hearing me out today. And I hope you learned some things that can help you as well and give you some comfort and support. Thank you so much.
Thank you.